Hi, scribes! How's it going? Did you have fun with the one-page screenplay assignment? I'm going to believe you did, so keep that fire burning, scribes. Alright, let's get back to it. In the last episode, we learned what the elements of a screenplay is and how they are formatted. Let's now move on to the content of the screenplay itself. That is, how to tell your story within the confines of the screenplay. The first few pages of a screenplay are critical. Most readers or producers will only give you about 10 pages to get them interested. This is why your screenplay must have a great beginning. Here are some options of how you might begin your screenplay. Number 1. An interesting beginning. As the writer, imagine if you're watching a movie. What is the first thing you would like to see? Especially thinking of the best way to draw the viewers in. Here are some examples. A. The protagonist arrives at the airport in a new town. B. A creepy person moves in next door. C. The protagonist has a first meeting with someone who will be very influential. A love interest, a mentor, the antagonist. These are all interesting scenarios for the beginning of a screenplay. Number 2. A day in the life. Another beginning can be the protagonist going about his or her normal routine, then something happens that changes things. Or a lawyer is arguing a dynamic case in court. Or a doctor is in an emergency room trying to either save someone or perhaps overwhelmed with the situation. Still discussing what the content of a screenplay should be, another important point is the critical element of the first act. The first 10 pages of a screenplay must grab them by the throat and never let go. The first act of a screenplay, in the case of a feature-length film, is usually longer than 10 pages. However, 10 pages is all the time and space you have to convince someone to keep reading. The first act has several functions. It establishes who your main character is, the setting, the time period, the theme, mood, and the genre. It is in this act that we meet the protagonist and antagonist. In some movies, we may not meet the antagonist directly, but we are at least introduced to them with hints at an ultimate revelation, such as is often the case in mysteries. Although we may not see them yet, we are made well aware of their presence and the negative, sometimes devastating impact they will have on other characters in the story. The first act establishes the premise of the story. For example, a huge shark menaces a beach community at the opening of the summer tourist season. This is in the movie Jaws. All first acts end with an inciting incident, which is an event that happens which either encourages or forces the protagonist to take his or her path in a new direction. The first act, coupled with the inciting incident, establishes the central question of the story. What does your protagonist want to do, be, or have, and what or who stands in their way? With all that said, I would like you all to avoid these mistakes. Screenwriting is different from writing a novel. It is a different medium and needs to be treated as such. With this in mind, here are a few common mistakes to avoid. 1. Starting too late. Novels can, and often do, begin at a leisurely pace, with scene descriptions, character backgrounds, etc. But because screenplays generally run a maximum of 120 pages, and much of it is white space, a screenplay has to get moving sooner. Always remember this rule: enter late, leave early. What I'm basically saying is, try to move the scene along quickly. 2. Unnecessary description. Screenplay description is minimalist, just enough to tell the reader where we are and the general tone of the place. Leave the rest up to the director and/or art director. 3. Stating the obvious. One tendency of novice screenwriters is to have characters tell us what we just witnessed on the screen. For example, If we're watching a track race and Peter crosses the finish line first, it is unnecessary and boring to have a character say, Peter won the race. Instead, have your characters react to Peter winning the race. That's more interesting to see. 4. Format. Screenplays follow a strict format. The first thing a producer does is check the format. If it's wrong, even a little, you may lose the person's interest. 5. Length. Feature film scripts are usually 90 to 120 pages, though close to 100 is typically preferred. The reason is that one page of a screenplay is considered 1 minute of screen time. And finally, too much dialogue. One big newbie mistake is to write page after page of dialogue. Movies are primarily a visual medium. There should be a good balance of dialogue and physical action. Action does not necessarily mean gunfights and car chases. It means the characters are doing something. And that's it on screenwriting. But before I say bye, let me add one last important thing. As a writer, one of the best tools to have for work, apart from your laptop, is a standard screenwriting software. This cannot be emphasized enough. There is no shortcut, especially if you intend to become a professional at this. Embrace industry standard practice. There are many options for screenwriting software, but here are some common ones. Until next episode, bye! P.S. Let's pick up the conversation in the comments, or send an email to writenowscribes@gmail.com and say hi on IG @writenowscribes.